Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The rising 14-0 New Zealand heavyweight prospect Junior Fa has re-upped and signed a new 3-fight promotional deal with American promoter Lou DiBella, and is expected to be in the ring as early as next month. So the New Zealand Herald, it's run 2 pieces in 2 days on Fa, basically where he's currently at with his career, a little bit back on some of the recent fights he's had, a little bit of perspective on that, but with an eye to the what next. So what I'll do is I'll get to some of the best bits and then to some thoughts. And I've also been in contact with Fa's manager, but more on that a little bit later. So one article, it does open up with the news that Fa has inked a new 3-fight deal with Lou DiBella, with his next fight in mid-June in either Auckland or the United States. So it notes that the medium-term goal is clear, a world title shot against either Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. And it adds, possibly as early as next year. Currently, Fa's manager Mark Cadell, who I'll just quickly note, he's a former Olympic sprinter. He's negotiating with 2 opponents for this June fight. His first choice is a Ghanaian with a 12-1 record, and his backup an American with a 13-1 record. So the paper, it also adds that the fight will be for a new WBO sanctioned regional belt, and a victory is likely to send Fa into the top 15 of the organisation. On the potential opponents, so Cadell says, these are tough guys who know how to win. We're not just picking easy beats that Junior will blow over. Obviously, Lou DiBella is Deontay Wilder's guy, so in 4 or 5 more fights, we're in the mix. We could be 6 months away from getting a call to fight Deontay Wilder, and we'll take it. And Cadell, he's arranged for Malik Scott, a sparring partner of Joseph Parker, Deontay Wilder, and countless others, to travel to New Zealand to train with Fa for 3 weeks. The Herald goes on to say that Fa has conceded he didn't follow the game plan in his most recent fight in Deadwood against Craig Lewis, and was affected by the 1400-metre altitude. All going to plan, Fa will also fight on what Cadell described as a big card in the US in August, and he'll headline an event in Utah where Fa has family connections in October. So this second article, it builds on some of the first, Fa revealing that in relation to the Lewis fight, overconfidence and a neglect of the basics, it left him disappointed afterwards. Quoted as saying, "The biggest thing for me was my mental approach to the fight. I went in there too excited. I wasted a lot of my energy on basically trying to land big shots without setting them up. I didn't let my punches flow. I bring that back to my mindset. I was so confident in my physical ability. I basically left my boxing brain at home. I didn't use my skills. I forgot about my speed. I was fully dependent on my physical talent rather than bringing in my boxing brain." And later he says, in terms of boxing, I'm getting out of that prospect stage and more into a contender stage. They're putting me up against tougher opponents and testing me a bit. I'm excited for my next fight because I will come in a bit lighter, a bit faster, a bit stronger. Also, I get to work on the mental things, which basically stopped me in this last fight. And just in respect of training with 38-year-old Malik Scott, Fa is quoted as saying, "I get the energy he brings into camp. I get to learn some of the knowledge he has. He's been in the game a long time and he's faced some names." Okay, so quite a bit to unpack there obviously, and I'll just start with the re-signing with Lou DiBella for a further 3 fights. In my view, it's a good move, especially for this point in his career. I mean, for all the criticism that DiBella does get, being accused of under-promoting Deontay Wilder to the level that is required, DiBella, he does know how to put on and run events. And for Fa's purposes at this stage in his career, that's perfect. DiBella can get him on slots on Showtime's Showbox cards, which he's already appeared on in March and last November. And remember, that November win over Fred Latham, which was on a Showbox card, it generated a lot of buzz. A lot of people were talking about Junior Fa after that. So, you know, getting on some of those cards is important. So for now, DiBella, he does give him access to the American market. He's growing his profile. And considering that Fa's last outing was in March against Craig Lewis, didn't really take too much damage in that one. A return to the ring next month, that will help keep his name out there with heavyweight fans, with boxing fans in general. He's actually at a really critical time in his career right now in terms of building a fan base. He's got to be active, he's got to be seen turning in good performances to keep drawing in the fans and keep retaining the ones that have already come on board. I mean, arguably, some of that momentum that he'd built after the Fred Latham fight, that stalled a bit after his performance in the Lewis fight. But more on that in a moment. I think either the US or Auckland, they're good options for this June fight because Fa, he needs to build his profile in both markets, in all markets. Even in New Zealand, at the moment, Junior Fa's profile, it's coming off a low base. So each outing, each good performance, the exposure from it, it's like gold right now. He needs it. And in terms of that next opponent, so they're saying a 12-1 Ghanaian that's touted as first choice. So Michael Clifton, who covers combat sports over on newsy.co.nz, he thinks that fighter might actually be 6'5" Richard Nai Lati Harrison, who you can see actually matches that description, a Ghanaian with a 12-1 record. And from the face of it, he's fought reasonably modest opposition. Don't know too much about those guys that he has fought, but given the opponent's not confirmed, I'll reserve judgment for now. But here is the record on screen, just to, this could be a sneak peek of who the 12-1 opponent is. When can we expect that announcement? Well, by the look of it, mid-May. So I've been in touch with Fa's manager. Looks like something is coming in mid-May, and I am trying to tee up an interview or something similar, trying to get either Fa or Cadell on the channel, so watch this space. But in terms of Cadell's comment that they're not picking easy beats for Fa to blow over, well, he would say that, but, I'm taking that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, this guy, whoever it is, the 12-1 Ghanaian or the backup 13-1 American, they won't be world beaters by any stretch, but you would hope that they would be able to go some rounds, and that is exactly what Fa needs. It's all about improvement now, working his way through the levels, building on the talent that he's got, because he's got a lot of raw potential, and he's working his way to true contender status. Right now, Fa, he's transitioning from prospect to contender. But I believe he's still got a way to go. So some of the talk of being ready for Wilder as early as next year and say if called in 6 months, I do think, it's optimistic to say the least. I'm sure they'd take the fight, but realistically, I think Fa, earliest he's really ready for a title tilt, 2020. I think that's more realistic given where he's currently at. But in terms of the next fight, helping Fa crack into the WBO top 15, I think it's a wait and see on that. If it happens, great. But I wouldn't be holding my breath either. I mean, you've still got those August and October fights that they've penciled in. Those wins, if he can get them, that will help get him much closer, potentially crack into the top 15 by the end of the year. But I was really heartened, I must say, to see that Fa, he's saying the right things here in terms of that Lewis performance. He's had the self-awareness to dissect his last performance against Lewis and really be honest with himself, because sometimes these heavyweight boxers and other divisions as well, some of these guys, they win, but they just can't bring themselves to look at themselves in a critical fashion, acknowledge some of the errors of their way, some of the things that didn't work. But in terms of this one, against Lewis, Fa looked pretty one-dimensional at times. His jab, his combinations, they went missing very early on. And the fact that Fa has identified where he went wrong and what went wrong, and now what adjustments he must make, it shows a level of maturity, and it also shows coachability, which given where he's at is key. And let's face it, that learning opportunity against Craig Lewis in March, it's probably come at the right time. It's a good time. He was put in there with a durable guy, couldn't blast him out, but he was still able to get the win. And as a result of the scratchy performance, because that's what it was a bit scratchy, but one-dimensional, he's walked away knowing what he could have done better, what he should do better. And I think, for Junior Fa fans, you'd rather that now than later. So while it might have been a bit of a forgettable fight in many respects, I think it's actually been a good experience and it's come at the right time. And in some respects, I expect the next few fights to be a little bit similar, and he will be trying to, I believe, bed in some of his recent gains, and that's be it the improvements to his weight, his conditioning, and also learning how to use his full arsenal that he's got, his skills, and this more aggressive style that he has adopted under trainer Doug Viney. And let's face it as well, the addition of Malik Scott, I look at that and think, actually, this is a very good move. Malik Scott right now is almost a professional sparring partner these days. It is going to benefit Junior Fa, and it does signal another step up in the level of his sparring, and also no doubt he's going to glean some things from Scott that are going to prove invaluable. It's all good experience. I'm sure he's soaking it up. But I would caution Junior Fa, he's a work in progress. He's going to be a little bit up, a little bit down sometimes. So we need to just keep our expectations in check as he continues to develop and walk that path to a potential heavyweight title shot. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.